Good afternoon. We just had two wonderful speeches from Mark and Justin with a lot of inspiration in them, a lot of wonderful ideas. And I was watching the video from Michael and I felt inspired. Michael says in his video, we need to do it, we need to commit. And I asked myself the question, coming here and speaking for you, where do you start? There's so much wonderful ideas out there. There's so much inspiration out there, but where do you start? And I only have 18 minutes. How do I tell to you that in 18 minutes? Well, before coming here, I was in Singapore. First time I was in Singapore. And what I do often when I visit a new city is I try to get lost. I try not to have a destination, not to go somewhere, just walk around in the city and see where I end up. And I ended up, in a very bad, noisy place. I ended up in the Art Science Museum, luckily. And there was an exposition going on which is called The Art of the Brick from Nathan Soya, which is a New Yorker. He does wonderful things with Lego. He creates art with Lego, and this is one of his pieces. And I was looking and wandering around through the different arts and pieces that he did and being inspired about all the stuff that he made. And it remembered me when I was 5, 6 years old, when my parents bought me this first big box of Lego. You know, I got that box and I opened it up and there's a little manual in there. It shows you how you can build things with Lego. And soon, when you start a little bit working with it, you learn that, well, the manual is nice, but what if you throw the manual away and you use your own creativity and you buy another box or you use another box, you bring a friend in and you start thinking around ideas and things that you can build. And we build fantastic, wonderful pieces. We build buildings, we build robots, we build a lot of different things together. And at that time, when I was 5, 6 years old, when somebody would ask me, and they do that, what do you want to become when you grow up? And then you go like, well, when I grow up, and wow, that's long from now. And you look at what you were doing, and maybe I want to become an architect. Maybe I want to build things, because that was what I was passionate about at that time. And I actually did. I became an architect, but I don't build buildings. I actually build things for the internet. I use software for that. And that happened when I got this. When I was 10 years old, my parents bought me, and Justin already mentioned it, a Commodore 64. This is an amazing device at that time. It was far beyond what anything could do, and it was affordable for any of us. I was 10 years old, and I got my first computer. And you could play games with it, very simple games. But what was most important, you could build stuff with it. You could program it. You could program in assembler, or you could program in BASIC. You could make it do things. And when it didn't work out properly, you could change it, you can improve it, and you could learn from that. A Commodore 64, to give you an idea, I need to go one back, there we need to be. A Commodore 64 had 64 kilobit of memory. To give you an idea, that is 1 second of an MP3. Your device in your pocket today, and it's on the table, my iPhone, or your HTC phone, or your tablet, is 10,000 times more powerful than this computer. And still, we could create interesting things with it. This is how the world looked 30 years ago. Actually, Commodore 64, its 30th birthday was in August this year. This was what a program back then looked like. But still, it was amazing because you could. And I need the next one. There we go. Oops. That's where I want to be. Not too fast. I still have 14 minutes left. Steve Jobs said in 1991, what a computer is to me is the most remarkable device that we have ever come up with. It's an equivalent of a bicycle of our minds. And I asked myself, what does he mean with that? Well, at that time, researchers had done research around locomotion. And they looked at different species, including us, to see which species used the least energy to get from A to B. And if you look at the list, then actually us men end up somewhere at the bottom. We're simply not good at getting from A to B with the least energy possible. But if you give us a bicycle and we go from A to B using a bicycle, we actually end up on top of the list. Actually, the species that is actually on top is the condor. We need less energy to go from A to B using a bicycle. And the computer is a little bit like that. It's a bicycle for our minds. It allows us to put ideas and create things with them. There we go. So the problem with computers is that they're actually quite dumb devices. They're very fast, but they're not very smart. They only know about zeros and ones, and that's it. So we need to program them, and we need to tell them what to do. And in the course of the future of history, we came up with different ways of doing that. It all started in the 1950s with a very low-level programming language we called assembler. This is actually what I used in the very early days of programming my Commodore 64, which was very slow. So we needed to come up with something better. And the next step we called compiled languages. And for the tech people and the geeks in the room, you probably remember C++, which is something we created in 1984, which is still used a lot to program computers. So this is a series of languages that we have developed and used over the years. Compiled languages are great, but they're still slow to work with. It doesn't really help us to quickly prototype something. So the next step from going from compiled languages, interpreted languages, they're much faster to work with, and they're also easier to work with. And we came up with a few: Python in 1990, PHP, which I work with, JavaScript. What is very important with these languages is that they're actually free software. They're freely available. Most of these languages were created by one person, and they spread almost virally, and now there are large communities that are supporting and helping to develop these languages. And 50% of the code that is on GitHub.com, and for the people that don't know GitHub, it is a little bit like Facebook for developers. We don't share our pictures of our girlfriends and our fancy hotels we go to. We share our code. We let other people see it. It might be a little bit boring for you. We let other people see it, and they can work with it and help improve it. And a lot of that is on GitHub, and 50% of that code today is in those interpreted languages. Now, along the line, something very extraordinary happened in 1990. We created the World Wide Web. Well, actually one guy did. Again, you see? Tim Berners-Lee did that. He came up with the idea of the URL, and this is one of his quotes where he says, "The most important thing that was new was the idea of a URL, that any piece of information anywhere should be identified so that we can get a hold of it and connect it together." Now today, a lot of people are talking about the social web, about Facebook and Twitter and how social media is changing our world. Actually, that idea is ingested in the fabric of the internet. The idea of being able to connect information together and to connect people together. So where are we today? Well, today, and that's what I'm doing, we're building web applications. We're not building applications anymore for desktop devices. We're building applications for the internet, and we're broadcasting them and making them available to people on the internet. And one of those is Drupal, which was created in 2001. Another, which you might have heard of, is WordPress, which was created in 2003. And the one that I helped co-found is Joomla, and we did that in 2005, which is actually quite recent. Now, all these are free software. All these three tools are freely available. You can download them. You can start using them today. All the information on how to use them is available. All the information on how to change them and improve them is available. You can engage with those today. Now, the question that some people asked me when I was doing Joomla is, why? Why does a bright guy or a bright group of people go out there, spend 3-4 years of its life to create something and then give it away for free? Why would you do that? I think Justin already answered that question a little bit. There's this yearning in each and any of us to do something that is a little bit bigger than life, a little bit bigger than us, to be part of something bigger, to have more purpose. Purpose and meaning, that's what Justin called it. I think that's the why in all these. There are large communities of people and many developers out there that are creating software and giving it away for free so that others can work with it and help improve it. Now, at the moment, these three tools make up for 10% of the internet websites. And this is just one example. There are many more, like Firefox and Chrome, the browsers that a lot of you are using, which are also free software and freely available. Linux, which was created a little bit earlier, which is powering a large part of the internet. So what I want to show you here, and I'll go back one, is that it took us 40 years to go from assembler to compiled languages to C++. It took us only 15 years to take that to interpreted languages, and out of those, in 5 years, we have created something like Joomla that is powering 3% of the internet. So technology, there we go. Technology is changing rapidly. Computers are getting faster, and as a result, we can create tools that are faster, that allow us to get things done quicker. But what is most important is that technology evolution is also the pace at which technology is evolving is also increasing. And then you would get this. We get an exponential curve. A lot of us live in a linear world. We age linear, we think linear, but the technology around us at the moment is increasing exponentially. Think about it, right? 30 years ago, or even 20 years ago, when I got my first Commodore 64, 64 kilobytes of memory. 20 years later, we have devices that are 10,000 times more powerful, that fit in my pocket, that I can store a gazillion MP3s on, that I can talk with my friends on. We are on an exponential path. Now the question is, what's next? And the question also is, where do we fit in? Well, this is the internet today. These are 3 billion connections of the internet. And it will take us a few more years to connect everybody. That's an enormous potential. We're not really tapping into that potential yet. It's a potential of connecting people, but it's also a potential of giving people the opportunity to change the internet that they're using today. So Tim Berners-Lee said, the web as I envisioned it, we have not seen yet. There is still so much, the future is still so much bigger than the past, and that's very true. We're very worried today about getting people online, about advertising to them, about using social media to get to them, about using Facebook to tell our little story or to show where we were yesterday. But what about getting people online and helping them to understand how the web actually works and helping them to become a programmer themselves so that they can understand how to change it? There we go. So what is very important today is that in the world we're living in, programming is slowly becoming the new literacy. It's a little bit what happened when we had the first printing press by Gutenberg. We went from 300,000 books to millions of books in a couple of years. With the internet, we're bringing people online and we're interconnecting them in a very fast pace. And the tool we use to make all this work is programming, it's code. So Mark Prensky, who wrote a book, Program or Be Programmed, he said, as programming becomes more important, it will leave the back room and become a key skill and attribute for top intellectual and social classes. Well, and I mean programming in a very holistic kind of way. This is also programming. What you see here is probably a 6, 7-year-old who is working with Lego Mindstorms, and she's programming. She's creating something. She has an idea, and she's making this little robot to do something. This is what I do. I sit with my friends, maybe in Starbucks or maybe somewhere else. I bring my laptop, and we collaborate, we code, we create things. So, oops, there you go, one more. So, programmers today are a little bit like wizards. We're doing things that 100 years ago, people would go like, that's magic. That's impossible. If you would take out your phone and you would go back 100 years in time and show it to somebody, they would go like, wow, where are you coming from? Right? You're coming from upstairs somewhere? What is this thing? You know, it's a little bit like magic. We're a little bit like wizards, or maybe wizards are also a little bit like gods. Right? We are creating a world for ourselves, and we're creating tools to do that. And we're at a point in time, and that's my message, we're at a point in time where an individual can do that. The guy that created the web, he did it on his own with a few friends around him. People that are creating all these open source tools, Linux, Joomla, Drupal, they're started by individuals. People that had an idea, that wanted to solve a problem, that saw purpose and that wanted to give meaning to something, and then just went out there and did it, and inspired others to help. So, where the future is ours, is what Mark showed. Well, the future is here, today, in this room. In the world around us, there's one problem. We haven't evenly distributed it yet. And this is where the internet and free software can help a lot. To distribute those tools, that knowledge, across the world so that other people all across can use it to improve their lives. And I sincerely hope that the next Steve Jobs, or maybe the next Tim Berners-Lee, will be living somewhere, maybe in New Delhi, or maybe somewhere in Manila, 12-year-old, with a great idea that has access to these tools and will make it happen. I think this is where real innovation will be coming from. And this is a little bit my passion. This is what drives me, making sure that that knowledge and those tools can get spread. So I have 3 things for you. 3 little words to take home. Make.Good.Code. You're all creators. You all have the power of having ideas. You all have the power of doing something with those ideas. So, there we are. Anyway. Doing something with those ideas, right? If you're 5 years old, you can play with Lego. You now have computers to do that with. We are all artists, and we're all creators. We all have this something in us, this yearning to do good, to have a deeper meaning, to do something that is bigger than ourselves. And in a way, we're all programmers. All the tools and all the information there is out there to do it. So if you saw Justin and Mark about these crazy ideas and you felt inspired, well, this is how you can start today. I wish you all best of luck, and I hope to see you out there. Thank you.